This afternoon in the marketplace, economy grows by 6.6%, ending this third quarter of the year, according to the Ghana Statistical Service. We'll bring you highlights, of course, quarter-on-quarter GDP growth rate, as well as the top 5 drivers to this growth. Also concerns over the cost build-up, investor risks, as well as consumer anxiety surrounding the controversial electronic levy. We shall bring you sounds from the streets in our special report.
The principle is wrong. Implementing is going to be problematic. You are taxing movement of money. You are not taxing transactions.
Most of the customers are now complaining they are going to move from mobile money. Even this one that we are doing, the commission on it, they complain.
And the Ministry of Works and Housing moves to formulate regulations, programs and policies to create conducive environment for building and construction sectors. We'll hear from the Deputy Minister of the official opening of the H&M manufacturing base.
Currently, the Ministry of Works and Housing has advanced with processes to review the building regulations, the Rent Act, that is Act 1963-220.
And we have all these stories coming up shortly. Please stay with us. Hello and welcome. I'm Charles Aite. As we've been stating in our headline story, the top story for this hour is that Ghana's GDP, that's the gross domestic product, grew to 6.6% in the third quarter of this year amid the scourge of COVID-19 and its ravaging, impact on every sector of the economy. We shall be bringing you details onto the drivers of this particular growth and what this means for our economy. But in the meantime, the controversy surrounding the 1.75% levy could be sending wrong signals to Ghana's investor public. Now, this is a warning that economists are flagging as Parliament struggles to reach a consensus on the approval or rejection of the levy. Joy Business interrogates the cost build-up, investor risks, and consumer anxiety of the 1.75% levy in this special feature. It was an awkward scene to behold on the floor of Parliament. Members of the House scrambling to get their entrenched positions known on the controversial electronic levy. There are two sides of the argument: the revenue generation intention by government as against concerns over the cost implication by many consumers of electronic transaction products, including techpreneurs.
We need to get creative about it.
Take a listen to the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, explain to Joy Business why the e-levy must be passed at all cost.
I think it is clear in my mind the significance of the financial architecture if we are to make any progress of the transformation that we had. So the SEC is important for capital markets because you are then beginning to look at the real issue of infrastructure needs and long-term capital, which has been the bane in this country for a while. So, how do you garner or mobilize the revenue resources for that? I'm extremely excited about the future because I think we have changed the landscape of the introduction of technology and the imposition of the ID system to GRA. But that's not the end of it, because we are now also going to be able to link individual activities at DVLA, or even when you purchase a home or when you purchase an airline ticket, so that we'll be getting to a point where we actually know where people's incomes are, and then they can contribute their fair share to nation building through effective tax system.
Ever since this policy document for some taxation on electronic transactions came up, economists in Ghana, some of them actually, have been skeptical about its efficiency and trickle-down success as a tax handle.
that don't subscribe to the Momo tax.
Professor Godfred Bokpin is an economist and finance lecturer at the University of Ghana. He is warning that the very purpose for which the levy is intended for may not be achieved.
The principle is wrong. Implementing is going to be problematic. You are taxing movement of money. You are not taxing transactions. And it's neither consumption tax nor income tax. You can't place it here or there and all of that. And you see, the reason I'm concerned is that COVID has fast-tracked the arrival of the fourth industrial revolution predicated on network readiness. What does that mean? So the digital economy is what is going to drive the job creation ambition of any serious country. So, and we know that taxation can be deployed, fiscal policy can be deployed to promote rather than hinder. Studies have shown that the digital economy is going to expand faster, okay, and more sustainably than the traditional economy. And the digital economy is an economy that is based on the deployment of technologies, apps, and the rest of them. So the economic output arising as a result of the deployment of these technological apps and the rest of it is essentially called the digital economy. And we have said that is the way to go. Okay, and by so doing, we realize that we've been able to mobilize funds that have been outside the financial system into the financial system broadly under what we call financial inclusion. So at this early stage, you actually don't introduce tax that will serve as a disincentive and drive people underground.
In the advent of the coronavirus pandemic, Ghana and the rest of the world saw a gigantic boom in electronic transactions. In fact, the total value of mobile money transactions hit 476.7 billion cedis in the first half of this year alone, with the total number of transactions being estimated at 1.9 billion cedis. Even though this shows that many more Ghanaians have embraced the mobile banking concept, 7% e-levy has got many Ghanaians opting to rather keep their physical cash on them than electronically.
This e-levy there, no, it's not good. This thing will affect many individuals in this country because now you can see that Ghana, we are passing through a lot of hardship. So this e-levy, you are pleading with the government. This e-levy will not help us. It will not help us because some of us, you are here, you have our parents in the village. So sending something small to them to manage e-levy, it will disturb us a lot. So you are pleading.
I'm not against the e-levy, but my idea or my suggestion is if the government can reduce it, that one will help. But 1.75% there, it is too much.
E-levy, the almighty e-levy. I think e-levy is going to bring our work down. That's what I think. The agents, because most of the customers are now complaining they are going to move from mobile money. Even during the commission on it, they complains, and this 1.75, they'll be like, wow, it's too much. I'll be very grateful if it's either they slash it down or maybe they don't think about it.
Even without the levy, the 1.75 levy, my customers are complaining. And they were like, if they implement the 1.75 this thing, they will deduct their money from mobile money. I think they will withdraw their money from mobile money. They will not transact anymore. And I think it will bring my business down. So I'm not in support of that.
1.75, the 1.75, the about affecting business. Business, from because if somebody wants to send money to his family members, I don't think the person will come to us for the transaction, because if the person goes and withdraw their money, because of the charges, the charge is bigger than the older they say, they don't come here and send the money. So it will affect us. So on this coming demonstration, we all be available there and do a gargantuan demonstration.
So far, Parliament has adjourned sitting until the 18th of January next year. What this means is that the revenue target for this controversial bill may not be reached in the time being. Aside from the controversy, there are deep concerns over the signals that this sends to Ghana's investor community. I engaged the Center Coordinator for CART International, Apia Kosi Dumako, on the marketplace. He paints a gloomy picture for investors in 2022.
How do we ensure that this thing doesn't affect investor confidence? In the short term, this can even affect how our CD performs. We are looking for the close of business today, how the CD would react to what happened in Parliament last night. And that is a short term. But I'm very confident that between now and January 7th, this issue will be resolved because Parliament has its leadership. Both minority and majority can sit down and chart a workable solution among this issue.
Of course, you deal with competitive policies and you also engage the business community on how best they can remain competitive in the sub-region and even globally. We have also spoken to some of these, businessmen and women, entrepreneurs for that nature, and they're raising concerns about the e-levy, saying that it could really, offset attractiveness to electronic platform usage in the country, and of course, entrepreneurs within this eco space as well. From where you sit, what particular risk does the e-levy pose aside its, attractiveness to revenue mobilization?
The e-levy is helping government to get revenue to resolve its fiscal challenges. And also on the demands, on the supply side, those who are paying it also has a lot of issues on them. Because whenever you are transferring money from one point to another, government takes 1.75 plus what the platform users would also charge. So it's going to have effect on doing business in the country. But for me, what is more important is how do we ensure that this new levy that government has brought will not impact heavily on private sector and Ghanaians. And I think the best approach is government to bring the figure even below 1%, and then maybe gradually increase it. But starting it at 1.75 for us is very huge. At 1.75, anybody that we talk to will say that it is not the best.
To lessen the impact on consumers, telecommunication companies and their mobile money operators have agreed to reduce the charges on transactions by 25% amid the possible introduction of the e-levy. The proposed levy is a charge of 1.75% on the value of electronic transaction. It covers mobile money payments, bank transfers, merchant payments, and inward remittances. Already we are picking up cases of panic withdrawals by some users of mobile money across the country, especially when some mobile money agents are also threatening to embark on a nationwide strike in protest against the controversial 1.75% e-levy. As it stands now, there are calls for both sides of the House to reach an agreement, especially when government says the revenue mobilization and the financing of development projects stands on this controversial levy. I'm Charles Aite reporting for Joy Business. And here on the marketplace, we stay a little longer on the e-levy because financial analyst Dr. Williams Pepper is advising governments to rather consider charging a VAT on 12.5% of the service fees charged by the telcos and banks transfers in place of the 1.75% e-levy. According to him, this proposal shall increase the VAT amount by 7.5%, that's 7.5 billion cedis actually, which is a 1.5 billion cedi shortfall of government estimate of 8.5 billion cedis on the proposed e-levy. Now, speaking yesterday on Business Live, Dr. Pepper believes that the VAT proposal will not be more problematic as compared to the controversial e-levy charge.
This is a major concern, and I think that government should probably, if the 1.75 is a problem, must use the VAT law to bring that one in. And in that case, it will not be a major issue. If you listen to the minority, all they are saying is that the charge should not be on the transaction fee, but should rather be on the service fee charged by the telcos. So if government thinks that the 1.75 charge on the telcos will give them less than 1 billion, then they should use a value-added tax rate, and then that will give them about 7.5 billion, and which is almost close to the 8.5 billion that government projects to get from the 1.75. In fact, in economics, if government applies this transaction on the transaction fee, virtually government is going to receive all monies in the country, because for every single transaction done in the bank, which is electronically done, government is going to get 1.75. Also, all mobile money transactions, government is going to get 1.75. So, in a cycle form, government is going to, by the time we will see, government would have collected all the monies in the system back into their coffers for their operation. That's why the focus or the attention should go on the service fee.
Well, now to our major business story for the day. The Ghanaian economy witnessed some significant growth in the third quarter of this year in terms of gross domestic product. Now, data released by the Ghana Statistical Service shows that it recorded a 6.6% growth over the same period for last year. Now, the growth can be described as substantial due to the fact that in September last year, the country posted some negative growth amid COVID. We want to share with you some infographics on the trend, starting with the quarter-on-quarter growth rates, some major highlights, as well as the top 5 drivers of the growth in this particular graphic that you could find on your screen. And of course, as you could see there on the quarter-on-quarter seasonally adjusted GDP growth rate for the third quarter was 1.6% in this year. Now, this means that the value of goods and services produced in the third quarter of this year grew by 1.6% over the value recorded in the second quarter of 2021. So that's a shift in value terms in the span of just 3 months. And you can see on the screens once again the nominal value, the monetary value of the GDP growth rate in the span of the third and fourth quarters. For the very third quarter of 2020, that was last year, we saw a GDP estimate of 41 billion cedis. And of course, the growth rate in that regard dipped by 0.08. Now, when it moved down to the quarter 4 of last year once again, of course, we had a growth rate increase marginally by 0.8, with the GDP, having to inch up, the estimate inching up to 41 billion cedis, 498, in that particular regard. Now, the interesting part is with this year, because if you're looking at the first quarter of this year, it inched up once again by 1.1% in terms of the gross domestic product. It continued to increase in the very second quarter to 42 billion cedis by 1.2%. growth rate in the very second quarter of this year. And of course, it also went up marginally once again in the third quarter of this year by 1.3%. Now, the key highlights to all this information that I'm sharing is that the quarter 3 GDP at current prices was estimated at 110 million cedis. The corresponding value recorded for quarter 3 2020 was 91. So you could see the difference there in terms of the marginal growth there. It also turns out in the very second, paragraph for quarter 3 for the 2021 GDP growth rate increasing by 6.6%, which closed therefore in on the pre-COVID-19 expansion of the economy. So there we do have it. Having to experience marginal growth rate in the first, the second, and the third quarters of 2021 amidst the scourge of the coronavirus pandemic on each and every sector of Ghana's economy. We take a look at the agri sector on the very 6th point there, and it helps us understand the fact that agri and services sectors expanded, with the industry sector contracting by -2%. With the agri sector, we're looking at an expansion of 9.2%, and the services sector being 13.4% in that particular regard. We do know that amid COVID-19, Ghana recorded so much gains in the agri sector. The planting for food and jobs really helped in that nature, so as with the services sector. Now, the top 5 drivers of growth in this regard. The crops, including cocoa, which contributed to 9.8% growth rate, which is a 1.43% point contribution to growth. Education also was part of the top 5 drivers with a 24.2% growth rate. And of course, trade, repair vehicles, household goods all came in the third top drivers of growth by 9.7% growth rate, of course, contributing to Ghana's gross domestic product. So we did see, the particular sectors that really had an impact on our growth base in the first, second, and third quarters of this year. We could also talk of manufacturing. In that regard, and information and communication and mining and quarrying, all recording growth rates in their nominal margins there. So these are the figures we're getting from you regarding Ghana's GDP. We shall peruse them in our subsequent bulletins. But still to come in the bulletin, the Ministry of Works and Housing moves to formulate regulations, programs and policies to create conducive environment for building and construction sector. We'll hear from the Deputy Minister at the official opening of the H&M manufacturing base. Do stay with us.
Currently, the Ministry of Works and Housing has advanced with processes to review the building regulations. The Rent Act, that is Act 1963-220,
Welcome back. The Ministry of Works and Housing says it is putting together a comprehensive policy framework to regulate the building and construction sector. According to the Deputy Minister, government is committed to providing the requisite support to the sector to thrive and achieve its full potential in a bid to grow the economy. He spoke at the official opening of the H&M Manufacturing Limited to provide services to the builds industry. We have more in this report.
As ministry responsible for the building and construction industry, the Ministry of Works and Housing says plans are far advanced to review laws governing the sector, according to the Deputy to improve the building and construction sector's market offering.
Currently, the Ministry of Works and Housing has advanced with processes to review the building regulations. The Rent Act, that is Act 1963-220, the Architect Act, and also to pass the Condominium Bill and the National Housing Authority Bill. Board for the Real Estate Agency has also been constituted, and processes have been started for the establishment of the Real Estate Agency, which will regulate real estate agency practice, commercial transactions in real estate, including the sale, purchases, rental, and leasing of real estate and related fixed assets.
Originally established in 2011 as a startup, H&M Manufacturing's official opening seeks to provide services to the built industry in Ghana. It is a trading company that occupies a prominent position in the construction marketplace in the country. Now Van der Poy is the marketing manager at H&M Manufacturing.
Our customers, they buy from us, they make the furniture, but the quality wasn't up to standard. We have these beautiful imported raw materials, but the quality was not up to standard. So for us, it was the most logical step to then start with a manufacturing company. Also, we have noticed that a lot of companies, let's say the real estates, hotels, they import their kitchens, their furniture from abroad. You know, it's cumbersome. It's very complicated. If, let's say, you have a child who damaged your kitchen cabinet, you have to wait weeks before you can get that extra part. And you know, it's possible for it to be made in Ghana. So we started looking at options as to how can we start something like this in Ghana. And but as a company, you know, we are focused on quality. Quality is very important to us.
Now, Breton Industries Ghana says its aim is to create an enabling environment for Ghanaian engineers in the glass and facade industry to prevent the exploitation of foreigners into the local market. Now, this, according to the General Manager, Ireke Didier, will provide a platform for local engineers to operate. We have more in this report.
The existence of the newly Ghanaian Glass and Facade Manufacturing Company will help prevent the importation of glass into the country. At the launch of the glass and facade industry of the Legon Ibri Road in Oyarefa, the general manager of the company, Ireke Didier, said the company is in to compete.
We went into the glass business because we realized that in Ghana, most of the companies that are in Ghana, even if some of them have a Ghanaian facade, yeah, the engineers behind, the managers behind, most of them are foreigners. What it does is that even if you are a Ghanaian or you are an African, you have the capacity to do the business, or you have the capacity to build yourself. You know, you are never being given that platform to access. Okay, so Britain Industries is coming in on a different level. What we are trying to do is we are building 90%, who is giving Africans, who is giving Ghanaians the capacity to rise to the level of managers, engineers, site managers, operators, and so on and so forth. You can see that in our factory here, all the machines are being 100% operated by Ghanaians. Okay, what it means is that these operators, when they will bring other people and train them, who are also going to learn the trade, who are also going to train other people, and then the capacity building is increasing, and everybody is going to be able to do something at least in Ghana.
He also added that women will be given the maximum opportunity to work at the engineering plants.
If you look around, the ladies in white, 40% of the staff in Britain are female. Okay, so most of the sales, marketing, we have engineers, we have project management people, all of them are female. In some companies, when we go there, you see that it's a majority of male people. Why? Because